Today on the Develop Yourself podcast, I'm joined by Laly Bar-Ilan, who has 20 years experience in natural language processing, machine learning, data science. She's a big old deal. She's held leadership roles at different companies, been VP, I think CTO, chief scientist, and
Yeah,
you work at Bit, a company I'm familiar with, and you're building composable software. And you've done a lot
exactly.
of stuff like from academic research to cognitive science and AI stuff, which I'm really interested to talk to you about today.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure. And I'm really excited about that.
You must be very popular nowadays. I feel you were doing natural language processing and AI before it was cool,
Yeah,
it appears.
exactly. For like the past 20 years almost. Yeah. Uh,
And what do you do at Bit like right now? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Bit and what Bit
yeah,
is?
of course. So we're bit.cloud, and we're a platform for composing software using AI, basically. So,
Okay.
and it's for anyone. It used to be more for developers, but now we're really like um, a lot like Lovable and Vault, but we're doing it using composable architecture, which really changes everything.
What I really want to
Yeah.
talk to you today, though, about is how developers can stay ahead in an AI driven world. This is something that I speak to a lot of younger developers about. I think there's a lot of like fear around it and people either wanting to put their head in the sand and like pretend it doesn't exist and like go really old school, which I think is kind of weird if I'm being honest, or people that think that like I don't need to code at all anymore. I'm just going to have AI write everything for me and I'm going to be
Mm.
like a vibe coder as a profession. And my opinion honestly is unmade at this point. I don't know. I don't even know what I don't know at this point. But
Right.
you do. You know a lot about this, so I'm really curious to like hear your thoughts on this. So if we just start at like, what do you think staying ahead even means in an
Right.
AI driven world for software developers?
Well, I've been thinking about that a lot, especially since I'm developing a code generation tool or part of a team that develops a code generation tool, like
Yeah.
basically cutting off the branch in which we sit, or however you say that.
Yeah.
Um, so so I know the capabilities and I'm noticing how different tools are just developing and progressing by the minute, right?
Hmm.
And the base models, and the infrastructure. I mean, this is amazing progress. This is ludicrous speed. And look, I do think that AI is going to take over most of the tasks that we do today as software developers. Eventually, look,
Hmm.
it learns how to do anything which is repetitive. So
Yeah.
it's not just, a function that it can generate. Eventually it's not eventually, actually what we're doing now is even on the architectural level, we're able to
Hmm.
build whole architectures, whole platforms. So
That's pretty wild.
yeah. So I'm noticing this and I'm saying, okay, so this is already taking over so many of our tasks.
Hmm.
Um, So that's on the doom side of things,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
right? Um, I think there is a bright side though. Like there are a few bright
Okay.
sides.
Sure.
First of all, I think we're going to take on more roles that have to do with integrating AI into existing systems. I think we'll
Hmm.
see more and more companies, and we're already seeing that more and more companies that that must have AI right now. Everyone
That's right.
is having.
Everybody's been told they have to do it. Yeah.
Exactly. And all their competitors are doing it. So they have to
Hmm.
integrate AI into their systems. So there's a lot of work to be done there. Okay. So I would say, first of all, to junior developers, first of all, you do have to learn how to code because you still have to evaluate the code that's being generated. Okay. And
Yes.
you still have to know architectural principles in order to oversee, whatever output is generated by AI. Okay,
Yeah.
you have to evaluate it. So you do have to have this kind of developer thinking.
Hmm.
Okay, but you do what I would do if I was starting off. And you know what? Not just starting off, even with 20 years of experience, I still had to learn so many new things, like in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
I had to learn RAG, which
Oh yeah.
didn't exist, right? I had to
Yeah.
learn how to
Yep.
fine tune models. I had to learn how to do guardrails, to create guardrails. Um, I had to learn how to deal with output, which is not deterministic, and to integrate it
Yes.
into my very deterministic system,
Yeah.
you know, and how to evaluate these systems. There's so much to learn with regards to integrating AI into existing systems.
Hmm.
So these are definitely things that I would go and learn.
That's really interesting. I just left a company where I was introduced to RAG, retrieval augmented generation, for people wondering, and it was like, oh, it was so cool. I'd never done anything like that. I was using like vector databases and like using OpenAI's API and building what was, a moderately complex RAG, but to me it was like really new stuff, and I'm like, this is so cool. But then I got into issues like, well, how do you write tests for this kind of thing? Because the output is non-deterministic, right? So you're like, well, how do I
Exactly.
write tests based on this? And there's some interesting people out there. I think Martin Fowler has an article about how you write tests for things like this now, and guardrails, like you said, or even fine tuning models. There's so much cool stuff too. I think that we have traditionally not been exposed to. Like I've been writing code for about 10 years now, half the time you have been. But in that time, this feels like the most fun time and also the most different time because I write like 80 to 90% of my code with AI.
Of
I use
course.
Cursor and I'm writing most of my code with AI, but it's rarely right on the first try. With smaller things, it's usually right on the first try. It usually gives me really good answers. Larger things, more context, it tends to kind of fall apart. So if I just took what it said out of the box, I probably wouldn't have a job. I probably would have blown some stuff up pretty poorly.
Exactly.
So that's cool that you're dealing with the same thing. That's really cool to hear, actually.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
agents, of course, which I forgot to
Yeah.
mention.
Agents.
You
Hmm.
know, you have to learn that like this is how you build systems right now. You know,
And so you're kind of saying for people, hey, yes, AI is going to write a ton of code, but at the end of the day, it's code, and you have to have somebody that understands that code to work within it and the systems that it lives in as well. It's not like this, the whole vibe coding thing, which I think is cool, to be honest. Are you familiar with the term vibe coding?
yes, of course. But
Okay,
I'm
I
also
thought you must have
familiar
to be.
with its downsides. You know,
Yes.
um, what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about vibe coding?
I think the original author the way he put it out there was smart, and I agreed with it. I'm like, yeah, it's great to get started, or even more than started, on a project. And if you're doing something fun and you want to just go off the rails and build something really quickly, it's great.
Yeah,
Now, this was coming from like a really experienced software engineer, like a genius, damn near. The guy's like, he was working with AI forever. So I think people took this and said, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna run with this," and I'm like, going to either extreme to me is a little crazy. Like saying, now I don't need to know anything and this will vibe code everything for me and I don't need to know. I'm like, this is dangerous because if you don't know, like, just basic security or exposing things like API keys in your software, which a few
exactly.
people
Like
did
this guy
apparently, which is
did.
kind of funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then just get wrecked. I'm like, well, that's not good either. But I'm not of the team that like I don't use AI for code. I'm like, I want to use AI for code. I don't see us going backwards. I see us only
Of
using our
course.
primary language, English, for coding, and then being kind of like a little manager over my little AI tool is the way I kind of see it. That's my mental model, at least.
I
Is that
agree.
kind of yours as well?
Yeah, I totally agree. If you think about it, it's just the next level of abstraction. I mean, we went
Yeah.
from punch cards with zeros and ones really close to
Hmm.
the hardware. And then we gradually shifted from there with assembly languages, then with object oriented languages, then with scripting languages. And now we have natural language. It's just the next
Yeah.
level of moving away from the hardware, of telling computers what to
Yeah.
do, you know?
Yeah.
But the thing is that the fact that it's natural language actually democratizes software development, or will democratize, because of,
Hmm.
because vibe coding is still not, like most vibe coding tools they don't build, they build kind of mocks, I would say, maybe something slightly better than mocks, but I don't think that
Hmm.
they're building maintainable digital assets, you know?
That's a really good point. Yeah, like the stuff it's great is like a prototype, like an MVP potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard to take that to a place where you should feel comfortable releasing that to the public. And it scares me a little bit when people say, "Oh, I'm deploying this. I'm getting people to put in their credit card information, and I'm
Oh my God.
paying for a
Yeah,
service." I'm thinking, "Oh, I guess that's not. I don't see that working out too well for you."
exactly.
But
Or the
I
people
do
putting
see
in
it.
their
It's
credit
fun.
cards, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of yeah, democratizing software across the board to people that don't know any coding is interesting to me. We'll see how long that trend
Exactly.
continues. So you've been working in NLP, machine learning, like we said before, it was like a trendy thing, really. I actually remember I wanted to switch careers at one point about 7 years ago, and I was like, oh, I want to learn machine learning, but I'm like, the statistics and the linear algebra and all the and calculus. I'm like, this is a lot of math I need to learn.
Right.
For people that are interested in this right now, because it's a ton of people want to switch into machine learning and AI, whatever that means. It's like this
Yeah.
big nebulous thing. I want to be an AI engineer. I'm like, what does that mean? What is it? Like, I
Yeah,
don't really know what that
exactly.
means.
You know, I have a friend who teaches machine learning in college.
Okay, cool.
And she teaches like the fundamental, you know, gradient descent and how transformers work, you know, with
Yeah.
the actual basic. And I keep telling
Hmm.
her, listen, it's a good thing, like to know theoretically,
Yeah.
but they're not going to use it. What you should be teaching them is how to
Uh-huh.
integrate, how to work with AI, how to do prompt engineering properly, because there's a lot
Hmm.
to know there. How to do, you know, everything we talked about, how to write agents, how to evaluate AI output, and everything we said before. I think this is what you should teach.
Okay, this is super interesting because I picked up a book on large language models and I've been like doing a lot of experiments with just like okay, like basically what you said, like building stuff mostly honestly in the front end. Like I'm working like building agents that can talk to other agents or kind of figuring out like okay, how do these all work together? I'm trying to learn things like model context protocol. This I did not expect you to say that. I thought you said, yeah, you should learn linear algebra
Yeah.
and like Bayesian, naive Bayes, whatever the
Yeah, yeah.
all the terms that I've since forgot about that. Are there some like principles though that you think that people should be aware of, or even math that people should know, or not? Is that for a full stack software engineer right now? Is it worth like learning
Wow.
the math behind machine learning and natural language processing, whatever, in order to be an effective quote unquote AI engineer?
I think it's kind of similar to maybe learning assembly languages to understand what Python does underneath, you know? I'm sorry to say
Okay.
that. I mean, I feel
No,
like
that's cool.
maybe I don't know, but I'm pragmatic and
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
I
thinking
like that.
about the job market and its
Hmm.
demands. And there are going to be, I think, fewer and fewer people actually developing base models, you know? And
That's what I would kind of assume, right? It's expensive to develop these base models. It's not like cheap to train a whole model, is it?
yeah,
I assume not.
it's
You
not
just got to
cheap.
scrape
It's
the whole
usually
internet.
done by the largest companies.
Yeah.
It's scraping, and yeah, then it's not just the scraping; it's actually the compute that's going into training the model itself. Once you have the data,
Hmm.
it's
That
not
makes
just
sense.
that, but it gets even worse because I think AI will also replace a lot of data scientists doing that because at the end of the day, this is also repetitive. You know, tuning hyperparameters is something that AI
Hmm.
can do.
I didn't think about that.
And I'm sorry to say, but I do think that both data scientists and developers will still have a lot to offer in the job market, regardless.
Hmm.
First of all, there's probably going to be new jobs created by AI, as every new
Yeah.
technology creates new jobs.
Hmm.
And there's going to be shift, you know, so there will be prompt engineers doing it full time and people who evaluate um, models and AI tools. And I don't know, people doing everything that has to do with ethics and security aspect.
Yeah.
There's so much to do there.
That's an interesting take, and that's honestly where I'm kind of guessing. It's so hard to tell the future now because I feel like things are moving so fast
Yeah.
that it's really difficult to know like what am I going to be doing? Because yeah, just this year alone, I'm like, okay, my job as a software developer has dramatically changed. In many ways, to me, for the better. I've been excited to use these tools, but every once in a while, I mean, I meet more than a few developers, a non insignificant amount that are freaked out and just want to like avoid using AI. And they're even going so far as to like, I'm not using AI text editors. And I'm thinking, why? like what? Where, and also, I'm thinking, where are people going to hide exactly? Because I think that's the other part. I see a lot of younger people, especially. I've gone to some colleges and I've spoke to younger people, and they're like saying, "I don't want to get into software anymore. I'm in computer science. I want to get into what?" I'm like, where are you going to go? I don't know if you have an opinion on that. That's kind of off topic a bit, but like I don't know if you have kids.
I do,
But what
yeah.
would you tell them?
I have
Okay,
two
yeah.
kids,
So
and
what do you tell?
actually,
Yeah.
my son is a software developer as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, cool.
he's 19. He's a software developer. I
Very
taught
cool.
him how to code when he was like 11 or 12, and
Oh,
so
that's
he's
awesome.
been doing that ever since. My daughter, not so much. She's not into that.
Yeah, I have three, and none of them want to do it so far. My daughter's still really young, so maybe I'll catch her. I'm hoping she can save me.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm just curious, like, what do you tell your son? Like,
Yeah.
would you still recommend that he even does it? Is he scared, or what do you tell him? Like, hey, son, go be a bricklayer, or
N-
go learn how to weld to save yourself from the AI.
Yeah, we actually joke about it a lot. But what I do
Okay.
tell him is to be uh, an entrepreneur, to
Hmm.
use AI to his advantage, to build product. And that's the thing.
I love that.
I think we have this solopreneur trend, right? That's been going
Yeah,
on in the
for sure.
past, I don't know, few years. Uh, and I think we talked about the democratization of software development. I do think that we still have a huge advantage as software developers dealing with AI, and
Hmm.
building digital products. And I don't know, I think we will see the less, I think we will see a lot of people opting for freelance work and for multiple income streams and for developing their own digital asset, products, services that are based on AI.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm encouraging him to do.
That's really smart, actually. I think that's a really good take in general. Like we are in a unique position. Also, we're at the beginning of like this big wave of technology where I feel like there's going to be a lot of winners that are early adopters and people that are jumping on this sooner than later.
Yes.
And yeah, like entrepreneurship and learning how to market yourself, like that's a skill I've kind of learned over the years. I didn't start off being like an outspoken software developer. I was a shy person. I wanted to be in my little code hole. And I thought, I want to get into software so I don't have to deal with people. That was naive. And of course, as you know, we deal with people all day long. And now you're on a podcast talking to me. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of our jobs are changing, I think, in many ways. When did you know the term like DevRel? And for people out there that don't know what DevRel is, can you maybe
Um,
yeah, first let's start off with that. Like what is DevRel?
so DevRel is developer relations.
Hmm.
I wasn't really familiar with it until a couple of like years ago. Um, Basically, if you have a product that's dedicated to developers, then you have people like me that
Hmm.
go on podcasts and do YouTube tutorials and do presentations and live demos in conferences
Yep.
to introduce this product to developers.
And
Uh,
you have to be a developer to do that job. Now you, at least now
I
you do.
think
But
you
yeah, you
do.
kind of have to be a developer to do it. You can't really speak the language or
Yeah,
like code live if you're not a developer. If you got like a bug or something bad happens during a demo, it'd be really hard to fake that or just kind of talk
exactly.
around that. People would easily see like this person doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and you
But yeah,
have to
this
answer
the developer,
questions, and it wouldn't work
yeah,
probably.
you got to answer questions. And we talked about this before we got on camera. But I was recently offered a role as a content engineer, and I'm like, what is that? and it's something similar to the DevRel engineering role. But I think in general, like it to me, and maybe I'm a little biased because of these recent events, but I see these roles as becoming potentially another area that begins getting bigger too,
Mm.
as we need, maybe as software is easier to create, gets democratized, as you say, and we need more people to show either people that don't know as much how to code. Maybe we're teaching the vibe coders how to use the software that we are putting out too. I don't know. I could see all sorts of interesting things happening at this point. I really don't know
Yeah,
at all.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, people who vibe code will eventually will need to learn, at least the basic principles of code and how to vibe debug, and how to vibe deploy, as how to vibe maintain.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we could add a whole other umbrella of terms under there. Actually, I like where that's going.
yeah,
Um, back to the composable software um, aspect of what you do.
yeah,
Composable software is probably a new term for a lot of people that are listening to this. We went over a bit about it. Um, how do you think composable software is going to change the way developers build applications? Like, do you see what Bit is doing as potentially the forefront of what developers could do? Because it's currently a developer platform, right? I mean, it's made for developers. I see there's like an SDKs and there's all the docs in GitHub and how to use it with React or Next. Um, but yeah, how should developers be using something like Bit or other composable software platforms to think about how they build applications?
right. So when you take most AI tools that developers use, like Cursor or Copilot, um, they're integrated into your IDE, and they give you code snippet, and and they help you, generate lines of code.
Hmm.
We don't work like that. First of all, it's a web first application, and we think of it top down. We think of it from the architecture first, not from the code snippet.
Hmm.
Um, Most AI tools today, and code generation tools, um, they get as context your usually your local repo, right? What you have in your local repo.
Okay. Hmm.
But that's not necessarily the right context for them. For example, if you want to create, I don't know, a header,
Yeah.
and you have a header somewhere in the code base of the organization, just not on your local repo, then the AI will gladly generate a new header, and you'll get code inflation, right?
Yes.
Moreover, let's say that you don't have any header in your code base, but you do have some components that you can use to create a header. Okay, so you
Hmm.
have search box, and you have logo and avatar and menu. Okay, so you have all of these. What Hope AI does, which is our AI, is take these existing components and use them to build the header that you asked for. So we optimize for reuse, which is something that, as far as I know,
That
only
is
we
cool.
do. We use your existing code base.
It's awesome.
We see the code base as like a live organism. Okay?
Yeah.
Basically, and we want to extend the functionality of the whole organism. We don't want to just generate lines of code. We want to extend the
Hmm.
functionality only if necessary. Okay? And
Yeah.
not repeat the same functionality. So
That is really smart. Yeah.
so basically what we have is a graph of components.
Hmm.
It's like a dependency graph that shows you which component depends on which. Okay?
Hmm.
And then you have like a live map of all the business and product functionality in the organization. Okay? So you can always know what functionality you have and use it. Okay? So we also have
Okay.
RAG implemented, retrieval augmented generation.
Yeah.
So for example, if you ask our AI to build you a header, it will first go and see if there's already a header component. And if there isn't, it will go and find header, and it will go and find our menu and search box and avatar and all of that, and compose a header, not from scratch, not just write it from scratch.
That is really smart. Yeah, that's a really cool use case. Because you're right. Like in the code bases we work in, they're massive. It's like if you're new, or even if you're not so new to a code base, you have like 1,000 files or 10,000 files or whatever. It's really hard sometimes. You'll realize you duplicated something without even knowing it half the time. You're like,
Exactly.
oh, this hook already existed, or oh yeah, this component I could have just composed this from other components. What a smart idea. When we talk about RAG, is that is that probably the most popular use case you see for AI? That's been kind of my bet that it's going to be likely the most popular use case, and that's the
Yeah.
thing that full stack developers likely want to kind of dip their toe into to become more familiar with like LLMs and AI and things like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think RAG and agents. Usually people ask about RAG versus fine-tuning a model.
Hmm.
And definitely the most popular use case is RAG, because eventually what you want is for the AI to get to know your knowledge base, to be able to talk
Yeah.
to your database, right? See what products you
Yep.
have or what, I don't know, customers you have, right?
Hmm.
Um, and and so this is RAG, basically. Fine-tuning a
Yeah.
model is something completely different. It's expensive, and basically it means that um, you make the model do slightly different things than what it used to do. So you actually change the
Hmm.
weight of the model. But this is not called for in most cases. You just want the AI to speak to your database, basically,
Yeah.
right?
I'm trying to train one right now to I write a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm getting kind of tired of always doing posts. I'm like, what if I trained, I made a database of all my posts, vectorized them, and then I can then ask questions to the LLM, and it can then give me posts that are similar, and then rewrite them using my tone and voice and things like that. Because I have
Yeah,
like hundreds of posts. I can't dump 1,000 posts into Chat GPT yet, so this was a cool little experiment for me to run
yeah.
to do.
So this
Yeah,
is where
but I like
fine-tuning
this idea.
is actually a great use case.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So first of all, if you don't need the live data, because our databases get updated all the time.
Oh, they updated. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
if you don't need that live data, then and you want the model to be able to do something that is
Hmm.
specific, then yes, you can try fine-tuning it. Why not? It's something that you do every
Okay,
once
cool.
in a while, it's not something that you
Yeah.
do every day.
Okay,
Case.
cool. Yeah, no, thanks for that suggestion, cuz yeah, I've been like trying to just explore like ways I can begin integrating more AI tools into my work and kind of learning still just a little bit under the hood. Like I'm not going to become a machine learning engineer or get into like data science at this point. I'm like that ship has sailed. But I really appreciate you keeping it super real, first of all, about your thoughts on like AI and how developers can actually stay ahead and the things we should be learning that you think are important, and also just learning more about Bit and composable software. Before we leave, is there any place people can find you online? You seem like you have a lot of cool stuff to talk about and say.
Thanks. Well, they can find me on me specifically on LinkedIn. It's
Yes.
Laly
Okay.
Bar-Ilan on LinkedIn.
Link to that in the show notes, by the way.
That's great. Thanks. And of course, Bit, you can find at bit.cloud and check out Hope AI, which is really cool.
What's that called? Hope AI?
Hope AI, yes.
Okay, cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Check it out.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really had an excellent time speaking with you.
This is so great to hear, and thanks so much for having me on. I had a really great time as well.